We all know how important it is to get on the property ladder. While it is equally important to take this step with diligence and a great sense of responsibility, not doing it at the right time or delaying to do so because you can't afford your ideal home could become a costly mistake. Early entry is crucial and can make a big difference to your finances. Yes, like every investment, there are ups and downs in the property market, and there are times when negative equity reigns supreme. However, properties usually appreciate, so it makes sense to get in even if your first property is not your ideal home. Delaying to get on the property ladder could mean that you may not be able to afford today what you were able to afford last year, as salaries do not always rise in step with the hike in property prices. So getting on the ladder is crucial if you can afford it. In today's episode, we're going to look at why it is important not to see your first property as your desired home. It's only the first step on the ladder, so take it, don't delay. Timing is crucial. Hello, my name is Tinuke. Welcome to this episode of Mind the Gap.
My name is Benga. Welcome.
So this is not about knocking those who cannot afford to buy a house at this time in their lives or at whatever time. Sometimes it just happens that you may have to rent because the parameters just don't align. So it's not about that at all. This is if you can afford to, but you're delaying.
Yes, you're right. This is not about those who are renting or who can't afford to buy at this particular point in time. But there's some people that are planning to buy, but they want to buy in a particular area. They want a particular location, and they are delaying unduly. This episode is targeted at you because sometimes you may be delaying unduly, but the reality is that it actually may make sense to go somewhere else to buy. At least your step is on the ladder.
Yeah, delay can be expensive. That's the point. So if you, for example, you're living in Wanstead, but you like to buy a property
in Park Lane.
Yeah, I suppose. So you're living in an area, perhaps you're surrounded by family and friends. That's your ideal area, and you want to buy there, but you really can't afford to, and then you're waiting 3 months, 6 months, maybe 1 year. It can cost you. So it's always better to have a strategy, and it may be just going somewhere else. So move 20 miles out, get whatever you can afford, and you may find that you know in a year or a few years' time you're able to come back and buy in the place that you want.
And I'm an example of this mistake. I made a very costly mistake many years ago because I was living in an area of North London, and the property market was quite okay at that time. At least in the area where I was living, I was able to, if I wanted to, I could buy a property there, but I wanted somewhere else. I wanted a different part of North London, and I didn't do what I should have done. And now it's really sad, and I hope everyone will learn from this, because that same area of North London that I chose not to buy from at that time, now when I check, it's about £1 million worth if you want to buy a property there. It's really that expensive.
Yeah, so
but at the time it was less than 100,000, and I could afford it, but I wanted a different part.
Yeah, so it's crucial to know that your first house may not be, and for many people it's not your ideal.
It's not your ideal home, and that's the point we're trying to make.
That's the point.
Actually.
So you're putting your foot on the ladder. It means that you've got something. You can still have a dream of this house wherever.
Fantastic house.
There's nothing wrong in having that dream.
If I had bought in that place, I would be able to afford my dream home now, really. That's the point.
Yes, absolutely. So always remember, first house is not necessarily your ideal home. It's a step on the ladder.
It is. And the wisdom is that if you can't afford where you are at the moment, or you have a desire, maybe your families and friends are in a particular area and you wanted to be around friends and families, but you can't afford to buy there, it makes sense to go maybe 20 miles away, or even 10 miles away, and buy where you can afford. At least your step is on the ladder.
Yes, and you can always come back to what you really love. There have been lots and lots of examples of people who've bought 10 miles, 20 miles further away from where they were,
Yeah.
and then in 5 years' time, they wanted to buy another house and found, oh yeah, we can afford where we originally wanted. So it's not the end of the world. If you move out, you can always come back.
And especially because usually, although as has been said at the introduction, that there have been times where the property market was at negative equity, but in most cases, properties always
Absolutely.
usually appreciate over time. So it's almost like a license to print money.
Yeah,
So
particularly if you live in the United Kingdom, the price of property has gone up over the years. So it makes sense to get on the ladder.
And if you're living at home, if you are a young person, you're living at home, it makes sense also to make sure that you make it count. So don't just spend all your money on Uber rides or flying to exotic places on holidays.
First class.
First class, I don't know. That would be pushing it.
Or designer bags. The truth is, if you're living at home, you've got disposable income. Chances are that you want to splash out, you want to enjoy yourself. But
And your parents are not asking you to pay any money for rent, so it's just
particularly if they're not here.
okay. So it just makes sense to make sure that you save that money that you could have spent on your rent. Save it. In fact, oversave even.
Yes.
And get your step on the property ladder, because if your parents didn't do the same, you won't be able to enjoy the fact that you're living in their home now.
Yes.
And you want to be planning ahead for your own children as well. They may not be out yet, but they will praise you in the future that you got on the property ladder early.
Yeah. So don't squander the money you have that you may be able to save from not having to pay rent. Put it aside, plan, get a property. You can still continue to live in your parents' house, but at least your property would count that you're already on the ladder.
And you absolutely, you could rent it out and get
Sure.
some income from it.
Sure.
So in fact, you might even become a property magnate without realizing so.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
So thanks for listening to us. We would like to have your opinion about this. We're not necessarily mortgage experts, but we're just trying to get you to consider getting on the property ladder, especially if you can afford it. And if you can't, I'm sure your own time will come. So please send your comments in the comment section below, and we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely, we'd love to hear from you. That's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.